This is a day that I was kind of dreading, really. Anyone's been following along now 10 years, pretty much, on this EV journey. It looks as though one of our cars, the EnV200 that bought Amy, we've had it for 6.5 years, we bought it new, has finally failed in terms of battery. So it suddenly, just 2 days ago, started to drop a percent about every 250 meters approximately. So it currently now has a range of around about, at a push, 30 miles. So the battery or some of the cells are dead. So we're into now a world of unknown. It's essentially scrap, pretty much. To get a battery replacement through like Cleveland, places like that, professional outfit, a second-hand 24 kilowatt hour battery, or even upgrading to a 40, you're going to be looking at around 10 grand-ish, up to 15, if you go with a 40 kilowatt hour. You give this 24 kilowatt hour over, they then supply another one which is refurbished. You're looking at around about 10k-ish. Let's just say 10 grand, which means it's pretty much a write-off. We could then try and repair it. So I've got a diagnostics tool coming to plug into the port, and using LeafSpy Pro, we'll have a look at what the cells are to see perhaps it's just several, 1 or 2, 3, 4 that have gone, the little packs that are in there, that maybe we can swap those out, get someone to swap them out. And see what the costs of that is. That might be the cheapest option out of this. But as it currently stands, you know, buying a new battery, no, that's just crazy money from Nissan. Might as well buy another EnV200. I kind of fancy upgrading to a 40 kilowatt hour. They're fairly few and far between. And if I was to, the newest ones are sort of 3 or 4 years old, and this one's only lasted 6.5 years. So it doesn't give me a massive amount of confidence. If I buy a 40 kilowatt hour that's 3 years old, are we going to have another 3.5 years of use out of it? And those go for around about 5. There's one at the moment for sale for just over 5,000, 5,300. I think it's done 30,000 miles, might be 19,000, somewhere around that figure. So that's 5,300. Then you've got plus shipping and then fitting. So you're looking at about 8 grand-ish. And that will get it working again. More miles, as long as that 3-year-old battery is actually okay. We assume it would be, but that's a financial risk you'd have to take to try and see if you get this back on the road again, this vehicle. With the possibility and the question mark over how long will that actually last. So it's done just shy of 86,000 miles. That's what we've got out of this EnV200. And now we've got that bill looming if we wish to put this back on the road. So you 30 miles, so it means you can at a push it's going to be 30. I've just done a journey which is 16 miles. It's down to 42%. So it's not really, it's like 25 mile range, something like that, looking at the figures. Yeah, a bit of a sad day really, because obviously if we spend a load of money on this, if we sink 10k into it, which we haven't got, but if we sunk 10k into it, you've then still got an old vehicle surrounding that battery pack, and even that is with a second-hand battery pack that we're putting in. So it's pretty much financially unviable, really, unless anyone is watching this knows some way of doing this for like 5k, which is still a lot of money to put back into this vehicle. Now, to put a positive spin on it, it's almost paid for itself in comparison to a petrol vehicle. So if I look at the figures, and these are just loosely done, in terms of fuel savings, and someone can work this out if they want to in great detail, but 86,000 miles, just shy of, comes at, I think, about £12,000 worth of fuel over the 6.5 years that we haven't had to spend. But of course there was electricity costs, which you could also calculate if you want to. So let's just say we sit it around about 10k. It's come back. It cost us 16,000. 16,250 was it? 16,500, 16,500 I think it was. So take into account servicing costs and the road tax that we haven't had to pay, it's more or less, might be slightly adrift, but it's more or less paid for itself financially. But that doesn't make it worth it to me, because we've had massive inconvenience with not being able to go hardly anywhere because of the maximum range, and public charging being in the state it's in. We've limited where we've been able to go. And on a couple of occasions, we borrowed a car, like a real car, to go places with the family, because don't forget it's a 7-seater, so we've got family of 6. So in that terms, we've actually taken a hit in terms of usability, and also factored into that, which I haven't factored in, but you could do, is stood around waiting for an hour or two for each time you do try and venture out further than its range. The going off route to try and find a charger, the hanging around, the hours that have gone in over that 6.5 years, financially, it doesn't really make sense. The only caveat to this, I suppose, is this might just be this EnV200 that's just thrown up a fault. And it may be that it's just a few packs that could be replaced for, if it was £1,500 to fix it or £2,000 to fix it, that starts to make a lot more sense. If you reinvigorate the pack and bring the range back up to what it used to be, like 80 odd miles, 85 miles per charge, because it's been running for some time at a lot less than that, about 60, 65 miles. Then maybe that's actually sustainable. You could keep plonking these cells in and get away with it that way. And that would be worth it. So that's the only thing. I'll do another video just detailing that, the findings from that, and if that's the case. Got really 2 options. Sorry, there's more than 2 options, probably 3 that come to mind is scrap this car. So just sell it off, get 2-3 grand for it in the state that it's in. Someone will buy it for that fairly quickly, hopefully. Replenish the cells in the 24 kilowatt hour pack. Find another 24 kilowatt hour pack. They're all going to be old, of course, so same problem, probably not worth going down that route. You've got the 40 kilowatt hour battery that you can fit in here, a second-hand one, and hope that in 3 years time that great expense isn't wasted. So scrap it would include obviously then going to buy another vehicle. Now, we seriously considered in discussions yesterday, let's just forget it. We went to go and look at a Vauxhall, forget it in terms of electric 7-seater. We went to see a Vauxhall Vivero, I think it was called, something like that. It's an 8-seater, beautiful vehicle, 2021, just really good. But the range is 80 miles in winter. It's like, oh no, we can't fork out on a new car and have the same range as we had from a 6.5, 7-year-old electric vehicle. Why on earth are they not fitting bigger batteries? It had a 50 kilowatt hour battery in it. But the real life range is 80 miles to 100 in winter, and about 120, 130 in summer. And so that really put the kibosh on it. We travelled an hour out to go and look at it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And we asked, what's the real range and why is it handed back and part exchanged at 12,000 miles in to this vehicle? Why have they handed it back essentially and changed it for a diesel? And that was the reason, is the family just couldn't cope with the shortness of range. So yeah, it put the kibosh on that. And I was looking at Tesla Model X's, see if you get, you got the 7-seater of that and the 6-seater version. But it's pretty cramped in the back there in comparison to this. This is a brilliant vehicle. Everything about it's brilliant. And the same as that Vauxhall we saw yesterday, that was just brilliant. Everything about it, apart from that one glaring issue, it's how far you can actually go. Now, when we were discussing this on the way back, we were saying actually in the good old days, 10 years ago, the charging was free. So the inconvenience of stood around for an hour is like, well, that's fine because we're not paying anything to get anywhere. So this is good. But now they're charging 70, 80p a kilowatt. The appetite for going out and far and wide and venturing out is zero, pretty much. So bit of a sad day, bit of a bad news update, really. Anyone following these electric car videos, I mean, the only thing, like positive spin on it, is that, well, it's a tiny battery, it's 24 kilowatt hour. There's been advancements since then. And I think with the bigger packs, it's less noticeable, the drop in range. You lose, if your car's doing 300 miles per charge and you lose 30 miles of that, you don't really notice. On a 24, where you're only doing 75, 80, and you lose 30, you're stuffed. So bad news day, Amy's EnV200 is dead in terms of range, pretty much. I mean, it's not dead. You can still do 20-ish miles, 25. But to all intents and purposes, she's done. So I'll report back in another video to see what the battery state of health is like. And then that will probably be a video on its own, a very short one like this one. And then we'll try and figure out what we're going to do. Any comments and suggestions? Say it's 10 years in this EV adventure. And it's a bit sad that the one that's 6.5 years old has gone And it does concern me, I have to say, as an advocate for these, it does concern me greatly that some of the fears that originally put out there by most of the press about the batteries dying and stuff, the cost has not reduced, essentially. You see all these things about kilowatt hours of battery production costs are going down massively and they're next to nothing to what they were. But you try and buy a battery for an EnV200 and get it fitted for a reasonable price in relation to the market value of the vehicle you're actually driving, and it becomes financially unviable quite quickly. You know, if you get this done for 1,500 quid, as I say, maybe just some of the cells taken out, and back up to full health again, you get another 6.5 years. Brilliant. If that just costs 1,500 quid, 2 grand, that's going to make sense. Anything like starts to get up to the 6 and 7s and 8s, it's like not worth it. This vehicle here is probably worth 8 if it was doing well. So, sad day. Anybody knows anybody that can fix these things very cheap and well, brilliant. And so I'm just weighing up fixing this. I've got to find out what the report says on the 24 kilowatt hour. If we can do that pack financially viable, then we'll probably do that. Otherwise, we could look in at getting a 40 kilowatt hour. It's just a lot of unknowns, so I don't really know. See you guys on the next one. I'll report back on my findings from the battery. So I've downloaded Lease Buy, paid for the Pro version, just waiting for the dongle to arrive to plug in. And my phone storage ran out. Not the battery though, thankfully. Yes, so tune into the next one. I'll find out what the stats are and see where we go from there. Bye.